Hi, I'm Nyasha Chidavaenzi-Choga. I am the lead coach at the CohesifyAdvisory, and I'm looking forward to meeting up with Prosper on the online prosperity show to discuss how I work with individuals, professionals, and business owners to navigate change, optimize your impact, and gain more hours in your day without burning out. Very excited to be on the show.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your go-to destination for exclusive insights into today's thriving and dynamic world. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvenga, and today we're going to be diving deep into the theme of transforming fear into fuel and navigating change without the burnout. And our guest today, this is going to be fun for me. Nyasha, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Prosper. How are you doing?
I think I did it wrong. Magadin.
No, wait, let me do it properly. Chiripo Magadio.
This is where I then go, oh, Tiriko, kudo, you know what I mean? All of that stuff. But I'm really excited about what we're about to jump on and do today. And for those that are just tuning in, yes, you don't have to touch that dial. You haven't rocked up to some sort of traditional journey or traditional video. This is just me exchanging greetings with my sister here. And I don't say this lightly. Joining us today is the remarkable Nyasha Chidavaenzi-Choga, who is an executive and business coach, who's also the founder of CohesifyAdvisory. She comes with over 20 years of corporate experience and a creative flair as an artist and also a former ballet dancer. So Nyasha brings a unique blend of strategy and soul to her coaching practice. And as we were just, catching up on what's happening back home there, I was actually really surprised and envious of the fact that she can still be doing have a happier existence, even, in the areas and the places that she is in, which she's going to be letting us know a little bit about, how she goes about it. So, but before we get into the nitty gritty of all of this, Nyasha, I heard you also did ballet for about 10 years. Now, my question to you is, if you're coaching clients through maybe a challenging transition or some challenging situation in their life, do you ever feel like you're guiding them through some delicate dance routine?
Oh, absolutely. It's there's a choreography involved. I've never thought of it like that. That's a new idea. I might patent it. But it's yes, definitely. There's a dance to it. You because ballet is really storytelling, and coaching is you jump in to help somebody tell their story in excellent light, and to position the things that happen to them as fuel for the next level of their life. So yeah, great analogy. Yeah, absolutely. There is some choreography involved.
Fantastic. We're off to a good start. So I've got my tippy toes. What do you call those ballet shoes? They're called slip-ons, right? Or
Point shoes.
point shoes. All right. I've got my
Yes.
point shoes going and off we go. So today we're going to be talking about Nyasha's journey from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship, the inception and also the mission of CohesifyAdvisory, and also the strategies of overcoming self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And also we're going to be looking at the importance of community and support systems in business. And last but not least, we're launching something amazing, and I can't wait to tell you about that. So you better hold on to your beverage of choice as we dive into Nyasha's story. And while we're going through this journey, I also want you to think of your own journey. Like she has mentioned, life is but a dance or choreography. It's in the way that you interpret music and express it through your body and things of that nature. If you've ever faced a moment where maybe fear has almost held you back from pursuing your passion, I want you to share your experiences as we go through this story in your comments below, because I think your story might actually inspire someone to take a leap of faith. And me and Nyasha will be checking out the comment section below and helping you through that dance we keep referring back to. Now, yes, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. I'm actually talking about having pointy shoes. I don't even know they're called pointy shoes. Can you maybe walk us through your journey, especially the time you actually got started, maybe, in school, and how you got into ballet, and to the part where, you started your career?
Fantastic. So I'll start with the ballet stuff. I started dancing, I think I must have been 5 years old because I stopped when I was about 15 due to a knee injury. And it was the best time of my life. I felt, so the backstory, I'm a textbook introvert, INTJ, very cerebral, very not shy, but withdrawn. And on stage, I was a different person. I just felt energized. I felt I was in the zone. I just needed the music to know my steps. And you go pirouetting across the stage, and I come off stage and I go back to being reticent. Um, but it's something I've worked through over time, and found myself in corporate. Education wise, I trained as a psychologist and sociologist. I have an honors degree in organizational psychology, a master's, an executive master's degree, as well as a number of other sort of management qualifications and trade qualifications and certifications in the marketing space I found myself in. I've worked in advertising. I've worked in satellite TV subscriptions management, but spent most of my career in banking. I think it totals up to almost 15 years in banking, working for one multinational bank and then a local bank in Zimbabwe. Um, how did I get into coaching? So a lot of corporations have graduate trainee programs. And as an executive, you'd be signed a GT, as we call them, or two to mentor. And I really enjoyed it because it allowed me to tap into my psychology qualifications. And it also helped me start to learn how to connect with different types of people. Being an introvert, I'm not going to be, well, back then I wasn't going to be the first one to make a first move and say, hi, my name is so and so. But interacting with different people is what helped me realize that I had something to offer to people that was beyond boardroom discussions and strategy sessions. I've got into coaching as a side hustle, and found myself really enjoying it. And when I left corporate in July 24, I decided, look, let me take a step back and really decide what I want to do next. Finished off my MBA, polished up on coaching qualifications, and then dived into the CohesifyAdvisory, working with individuals and groups in coaching settings, mostly professionals, mid-career and upwards to executive level, as well as business owners. So the business ownership side is what really excites me the most, because you're having to deal with the strategy, the nuts and bolts of running a business, but also making sure that you, as the business owner, have the right frame of mind, the right mindset. I was reading some shocking statistics that 70% of the startups that are established in a year don't make it to year five. And only 10% go beyond year five. And yet you've got over 137,000 startups popping up on a daily basis globally. And it's to say, okay, where's the gap? Where are we getting it wrong? How can we reduce those numbers? And looking across the landscape, and it doesn't really matter where in the world you are going to face issues to do with cash flow, issues to do with operations. I think the biggest issue is really being able to step back and work on your business and not necessarily in your business. And that involves you really being very strategic about what are you delegating? Are you automating anything? Are you outsourcing so that you free yourself from working on the shop floor and move up to not the penthouse suite, but the boardroom and direct strategy where you've got a better view from a vision perspective, and to do that in a community with like others so that you're not isolated. You've got a network behind, a network or support system behind you. You've got somebody you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Prosper, I heard you discuss X in our last in-person meeting. I seem to have hit X. Help me navigate." And have that community where you do have the support. You've got the knowledge. You're able to tap into the knowledge of other people. And for me, that's absolutely key. Just looking around and even just seeing how entrepreneurs in my own family have navigated that space.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us through that part of your journey. And obviously, there's a few highlights there. I'm just going to maybe go back to so that we can address them.
Sure.
Now, you did mention at age 15, you had to, stop doing ballet just because of that injury that would have happened. Just walk us through, because it does seem like 10 years is a long time for you to just have a career-ending sort of injury that takes you out of play. Just walk us through, what was going on there and how that felt, and obviously, how that sort of impacted you moving forward.
So I was part of a dance school, and there's the National Ballet School, as it were, where the cream of the crop go. And while I was a ballerina, I was also a bit of a tomboy. I'd go everywhere on my bicycle. I think I went on everywhere on my bicycle until I was about 18, 19. I just didn't. I was like, I'm not doing buses. I liked the freedom of being on a bicycle. Fell off my bike a couple of times, and I think that was probably the trigger. So it was a recurring knee injury, or it could have been the hockey, could have been tennis. I was very active. And I think my knees just said, look, we're done. And the heartbreaking thing is, it was shortly before I was invited to audition for the National Ballet. So it was crushing. It was devastating. I mean, when you do something like ballet, the whole family's involved. My mum used to help with costume making. My dad used to make sure I was where I needed to be. So it was something that really, I caved in, basically. At 15, it was tough. And you get to a point where you're just like, at least I can walk. At least I can still get on my bike and get to where I'm going, but I can't dance. And for a long time, I couldn't watch ballet. I couldn't listen to music associated with it, because it was very sore. It still was quite jarring for me to immerse myself in that world, but not as a dancer. Support system was what got me out of it. My mum was just like, look, this is life. You've got to roll with the punches. I didn't fully understand what that meant, but I think I did roll with the punches, found other interests, and I think that's when art came to the fore. And I went to a school that was very academically driven. So you dive into your books. I'm diving into the art. It's not that I forgot the ballet, but I found solace in academia as well as in drawing and painting. So that really helped me as a coping strategy. Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like how your start has all the elements that you are now working with people towards. Obviously, the element of community, there's an element of a support network. Had your
Mm-hmm.
parents not been supportive in that particular instance, that would have obviously really, really affected you and things of that
Mm.
nature. But my follow-up question with that is, you partly answered it with the school academic sort of regime, but was there an expectation of the society around you, be it the parents or the school? Was there an expectation for you to do well, which obviously would have then made sure that you advance in whatever it is that you were doing?
Oh, absolutely. So I went to a private school, an all girls private school, and it was books, 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 books. And the expectation, I mean, I was at school with girls who for A level were getting 11 straight A's. So the pressure was on.
Right.
You couldn't escape it. It was not unheard of to be doing more than the standard 8 subjects. I think I ended up doing 10. There were girls there who were doing 11. For A level, you've got girls who were doing 4 subjects as opposed to 3, simply because they could handle it and they would come out with 4 straight A's. So the pressure was on. And I think from school, I learned the work ethic. That thing that says your goal is an A at the end of your O levels or at the end of the year, and you have to figure out how to get A's. So you cut out things like, I mean, you hear of teenagers doing 2 hour calls with their friends, and I'd be like, I was with you at school. What are we discussing? I've got work to do. So it was excellent training ground for just having that work ethic that says I have a goal, and I need to pursue that goal, and I need to nail that goal. And that was it. It was as simple as that. But it meant no going out at the weekends or going out maybe at half term, where you get to take a break. Even during the holidays. So my mum, both my parents actually, were teachers. So there was no escaping academic excellence. Even during school holidays, you would have to set aside time for basic revision, reading, and exploration. I think that's something that really excited me because it opened up the world of books, the world of knowledge, um, and to learn crazy things like my mum was a history teacher, English literature. So I was reading Shakespeare in 12, 13. I'm trying to get through Macbeth. Um, Jane Austen is a favorite between myself and my mum. Um, then it was just that whole ability to say, you know what, I'm here in Harare in our house, but if I pick up a book, I can be anywhere in the world. It just opened up a whole world. It was magical to me. And being surrounded by nerdy teens was just the fuel you needed. I participated in the what you call it, the quiz team. So for me, that whole general knowledge thing, I love watching quiz shows, simply because you've got a piece of information that's in your head, but until you've been asked the question, you don't even know it's there until the answer comes out. And I find in my coaching practice, my belief in coaching is the answers to your issue are within you. You just don't know where to look. You just haven't been asked the question that can elicit the answer and take you along the next steps of your dance routine, as it were. So it's fascinating for me. It's exciting. Um, I love working with people who are actually different from me, because I do learn from you. I do walk away having expanded my mind. And there's that saying, once you've expanded your mind and stretched it, you can't go back. You can't
Can't
you
go back.
can't
Yeah.
unlearn something that's captured your attention. So yeah, it's my dream life. I get to explore, I get to learn from people, but still with a strong leaning on the academics. My bookshop, I'm envious of your bookshop. Mine's not as big, but it's almost as loaded. And I'm that girl. I'd rather buy two good books than a nice pair of shoes. Simple.
Absolutely.
Books are my thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I quite like that analogy of, no matter where you were in Harare, but opening up a book would open you up to the rest of the world. And I think that's what kids now have. But this time around, it's the internet. And the book were
Absolutely.
a technology that really elevated us to spaces. So I mean, obviously you could be envious of this shelf, but this is all trauma just behind me there. So I've always wanted to have that many books. Now that I can, I'm getting as many as I want, and obviously
Fantastic.
that's a story for another time. So while this is all happening, you went on and studied psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
then moved on. What was the inspiration around psychology? Because it's a little bit
It
of
just
a
makes sense.
far cry from,
Mm,
obviously parents were teachers, and you then went on and did
mm.
something unique.
So, so I wanted to get into architecture. I love buildings. One of the things I love about traveling is as you move through a city, you can see the history of that city in its buildings.
Right.
So even in Harare, you've got buildings from the 1800s, the 1920s, and you can see as you progress, then you've got your skyscrapers. And buildings have always fascinated me because they are edifices they're almost time capsules. Um, Capturing the art, the thinking, the design approach of that particular era. Um, but I was useless at maths. I just could not get my head around numbers. So psychology was a plan B. I've taken a lot of plan Bs, Ds and Cs, and it was something that fascinated me. So psychology for me is the study of individuals, and sociology is the study of individuals and groups. And that to me was just the launch pad, getting that understanding of I am Nyasha and I think like this. I'm an introvert. This is who I am. Um, who am I when I'm now with my family? Because that's a group, and I'm part of that group. Who am I when I'm with my friends? That's a different type of group. Who am I in the workplace? And with its hierarchy and roles and positions, it's just to me it felt so natural to be in those sciences, the social sciences, studying the human mind, studying human behavior, and studying groups. Um, and the knock on is when you're now in a coaching setting, that's exactly what you're dealing with. You're dealing with an individual who is in a group of some sort, and they've either hit a crisis or they've hit something that is wonderful, a new job, a promotion, but they're sitting there wondering, what now? You've hit a crisis, you've been laid off, what now? Or you've got a promotion, that promotion you've been working hard for over the last 2 years, and you start to feel you're in a little over your head and you're asking, okay, what now? And I come in as your coach and say, look, let's unpack this. Let's understand who you are. Let's understand where you want to go, and let's plot a route to where you want to be. And I think in there, the maxim that guides me is a quote from uh, a business owner from, I think, the 60s and 70s in the States called Max Dupree. And he said, we cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. And I latched onto that. I first came across it when I was 17, and it's guided my life ever since. You've got a picture of who you want to be, you know who you are, and you know that to be who you want to be, you can't remain who you are. You've got to go on a journey of some sort, to unpack and discover your strengths, learn how to harness them as you move towards your journey. So for me, it's that, how can I be part of the process of you either discovering who you want to be or taking the journey to who you want to be, and realizing that who you are is not going to get you there. You need to acquire new skills. You need to broaden your mind. You need to experience new things. You need to be challenged by somebody who says to you, okay, you said you wanted to uh, do the Two Oceans Marathon in Cape Town next year. It's been 3 months. You haven't even run 5Ks. How are you going to close that gap in your training to prepare you? So there's pushing, there's encouragement, and that support that comes also. So it's a very sort of natural space for me to be in. Yeah, social sciences are for me.
I love that. I love that, because so many people just don't quite realize that what brought you to a certain situation, or the thinking that brought you to a certain situation, is not exactly the same thinking that you need to get yourself out of it. It so happens to a lot of people who get stuck in the mud, especially when they're driving with their car, and they just go in there. They got in there by driving, and they want to go out there by driving again, and all they're doing is just keep digging themselves back into where they went into. So that's pretty much how it is. Now, I love your journey, especially in the corporate world. You did mention you worked for TV subscription company, and then you also worked with a bank and different banks and things of that nature. Now, this is a study of people. Have you ever seen like those rooms, especially in the movies, where the detective can actually see the people that are on the other side, and you can literally see people's nature by watching what it is that they watch, and you would know what sort of people they are, and you would also look at how they handle their finances and how they handle wealth and how they grow it and things of that nature. Now, this is a nice spectrum of you actually studying people, and without them realizing that this was happening. But did you notice that you were actually being trained for now the role that you're in and coaching, where you're literally seeing people from a screen? You can see exactly what they're going through, even though they're trying to tell you the dog ate my homework. You can see through their actions.
I think I wouldn't have put it quite like that. And I love how you put it, to say all these experiences that I was going through were training. I saw it as steps in a story on a journey. But to look at it as training is absolutely spot on, because I had to deal with my own crisis from the knee injury. I had to deal with another crisis when I realized, yes, I want to do architecture, but I'm useless at maths. How do you close that gap? You can't. So you've got to take plan B. And I think for me, it's that attitude of being able to see that there is a plan B, but sometimes you don't see it. And being able to take it, being able to lead somebody through their plan B, but absolutely being able to have insights into individuals is absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm looking at your bookshelf and I'm like, just as and just listening to people, I think the key is learning to listen to what's being said as well as what's not being said, and finding the person in those two spheres, and bringing them together and saying, okay, Prosper, you were a reader. You love Zimbabwe. I see you've got your flag there. You've got your accolades. You've got painting. I think that's Bruce Lee, if I'm not mistaken. And it's to get that idea of who you are. And I love doing that. My friends don't like it, because obviously they're like, you're psychoanalyzing us. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yasha, you just roped up here now. I don't even notice that is visible. Now you're making me feel insecure. So I can imagine your friends. You visit your
So yeah, my
friends.
friends.
You visit your
Yeah,
friends.
no.
And, I see.
So for me, yeah. So they get uncomfortable, but I'm simply doing it to get a better idea of who you are, and it helps me. It helps shape how I connect with and it's in a non-manipulative way. It's simply to look at the insights I have on you and say, oh, this resonates with me as well. Who doesn't love a good kung fu movie? So already we've got a point of connection. And it just makes the coaching journey easier, simply because I won't feel like a total stranger. I don't want to be a total stranger. But also, there are boundaries. I'm not going to encroach on those boundaries and start to make you feel. I could say, oh, Prosper, why that picture and why this? And no, no, no. It's really to just create that rapport that makes our conversation a safe environment, a safe
Mhm.
space to explore who it is you are and who you need to be and how you're going to get there.
Absolutely. You see, there's a phenomenon that is called people like us do things like this. All right. So, in
Mm,
essence, when somebody connects with someone, they want to find what is the quickest way I can connect with this person? What is the quickest way I can, have a point of reference where both me and that person have some sort of kinship or some sort of connection. Just like when your name rocked up, I'm like, wait a minute, this is familiar. How did this? And I'm
yes.
now trying to feel, wait a minute, how did I make this connection and things of that nature? So
Mm, mm.
I quite like that. But when did you realize? I know you did mention that as part of your training and some of the things that you're doing with the work, there was coaching that was involved, and you
Mhm.
all just lumped it up in the whole bag of achievements that you have, which really sustainable. I mean, somebody with a master's and
Yes.
things of that nature, it's really, really kudos to perseverance and everything else that comes along with it. But at what point did you then realize, you know what, I'm done looking at people's bank accounts. I'm gonna go and coach them. Had you seen the way they were spending money, or had you seen the way they were just like this?
No, no. It's actually not a decision I took. It's another sort of plan B moment.
Mm,
The group of companies I was working for went through a major restructure. And when companies restructure, people are going to get laid off. I was laid off. And because the lucky thing for me is we could see it coming. We just didn't know who was going to be impacted. So I called up my best friend and I said, girl, things are on the horizon. I've put together a game plan. If I am impacted by this, these are the 5 things I need to do within the first 3 months if I get laid off. Keep this list and let's talk in a month or two and see what happens. The inevitable happened. Well, I don't know if it was inevitable, but whatever it is, it happened. And I was laid off. And the first thing on my list, so the first thing I did was to call her and say, do you still have that list? And she's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, we need to activate it. And she's, obviously, there's the whole drama and all the rest of that. How are you? I'm okay. Um, and number one on that list was grieve, just mourn the loss of your job. A lot of people will go through something like that and jump very quickly 2 days later into finding a new job. And I just said, I need to grieve. I've given this company 11 years of my life. It's come to an end, and I don't know what impact it's going to have on me in 6 months' time. I need to deal with the loss because you lose connection, you lose community. Um, your the people you worked with on a daily basis when you wake up the next day are not there. And I'm so glad I took that time. And I think on my note, I actually wrote, I'm allowed to grieve for about 2 or 3 days. If I go beyond that, you need to give me a slap across the face and say, girl, we've got number two to move on to. So it was having that game plan. Um, when you can see something on the horizon, you're not sure if it's going to impact you or not. You are impacted, but I had a game plan. activated the game plan. I think number three was a shopping spree, hopped on a plane, went down to South Africa, and I shopped. You know, that type of shopping where I'll take that, and that, and you just swipe your card, don't care what it cost. It just felt good. But obviously, I had a shopping list, being the organized, structured individual that I am. I did have a list, so it wasn't random shopping, but it was just a breath of fresh air. I came back, number four on the list. I can't remember what number two was. Oh, number two was tell the family and explain it to my daughters, who are both under the age of 10. And I'm so grateful for ChatGPT. I just said, look, I need to tell my children I've been laid off. How do I package it in terms they understand? ChatGPT spat out an answer. I told them, look, I just don't work there anymore. And that was it. We're done. Let's move on. So I think number four was to say, okay, let's finish the MBA. It had taken me a long time to get that master's qualification. I think I posted about it on LinkedIn. It's almost a 15-year story where it was stop, for various reasons. The first attempt I stopped because I just didn't have the work experience. I think I'd been working for a year or two and had not built up a bank of information and experiences to channel into my learning. So I had to put it on hold and so on. Excuse me, I won't bore you with the details, but it was a long journey for me. And I said, look, I've got all the time I want to finish this thing. Let's get it done by December. By year end, I must either have completed exams waiting to graduate in the following year or graduate at the end of that year. I had started and graduated on the 20th of December with my executive MBA. So I had that runway. I'd registered the CohesifyAdvisory about a year and a half before I was laid off, simply because I was like, look, I need to start formalizing. There's a point at which your side hustle has to become something a bit more. And you've got to start formalizing it. And as it grows, you need to transition from this is something I'm doing on the side. And thankfully now we live in the era of portfolio careers. There's nothing that stops me from being an artist and a coach and a marketer, provided I'm not in any sort of conflict of interest, and I can be all three. So I was moving along that route. And I said, look, let's give CohesifyAdvisory a shot. But you mentioned fear. I think one of the things I really had to confront at the end of last year is the fear of going public and saying, look, guys, this is what I'm doing. Thankfully, I have a coach, and she sat me down and she's like, look, what is stopping you? And I had all sorts of reasons. What will people think? What will people say? Will I be able to navigate those comments? And she's like, okay, so who are these people? And why do they have so much power over you? And I stepped back and realized, no, there's nobody standing there going, thou shalt not launch your coaching practice. It was my own fear holding me back. And she said, can we set a date for which you're going to post and tell the world that you started a coaching practice? I mean, you started it ages ago. And even after drafting the LinkedIn post announcing that I'm starting a coaching practice, it took me 2 days to hit send, simply because I had to work through my own shortcomings, my own fear, hurdles I'd put up for myself. And it hitting that post button. Once I did it, I was overwhelmed by the amount of support and encouragement. It gives me goosebumps just to see. I've never posted anything that's been responded to so positively on LinkedIn. I sat back a week later and I'm like, so what were you afraid of? What are you afraid of now? And I couldn't answer those questions. And that's it. We took off. And I'm coaching my clients and having a grand time doing it. because I get to work from home, which I've always loved. I get to have lunch with my kids after picking them up from school. Um, I try not to work on Wednesday afternoons. That's when we play. Sometimes it's as simple as setting up the sprinkler in the garden for the kids to dance around in while I'm sitting reading a book. And I absolutely love it. And to think, had I listened to that little voice of doubt and fear, I wouldn't be living this life. I would have jumped straight into the next role, the next job, and been in a space where I get to miss out on that. So yeah, you've got to overcome your fear. You've got to work through your hangups, and the life you want, the dream you want, the you've got to be is on the other side of your fear. Once you conquer that fear, or even just deal with that first hurdle, you just know how to deal with the next and the next and the next and the next. And it's a wonderful journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations. I mean, it's not easy.
Mm,
15 years to do a 4 year or 2 year degree. But the good thing about
right.
it is on a degree, there's no dates. So nobody's going to know
Mm,
that this took you 15 years, but that is a story that
mm,
you
mm,
get to tell. And so many people are usually stopped in their tracks because they have this way of life which is unrealistic, and they sort of have that anticipation that things have to work in a certain way. And also
yeah.
congratulations on getting started on your business. I absolutely love the retail therapy that came with, losing your job. I could have. That's amazing just to hear that
Mm,
happened. But the fact that you had on first of the least to grieve, so many
yeah.
people turn that grieving part, because grieving has 5 stages as it, acceptance, and
Mm-hmm.
then you start bargaining, and then you actually do work towards it. Some people just look at the
Yeah.
shame side of things, and then they, like you said,
Mm,
really quickly want to fill that void and that hole without actually anticipating. I mean, also appreciating how far they've come. But now
yeah.
that you had obviously started on your own, I can imagine in the bank you had people that filled up your staplers, you had people that filled up the people that would make coffee for you. I would understand that's how it works around there. The copier was always full of paper. If it wasn't, somebody would go down the road. It wasn't your job. And there's one thing that always happens in the bank. There's always pens. I don't know if that's the investment strategy.
Everywhere.
You would never have to. You'd never have to buy a pen, even if you tried to buy a pen for yourself. What was it like
Mm.
now, having to transition from corporate to entrepreneurship?
You become everything, don't you? I'm the guy that checks the copier. I'm the guy that fills up the staplers. I'm the guy that makes the coffee. I do the marketing. I do the PR. I do the finances. It was a major transition. It was a major, major transition. But looking back, there were experiences that I went through that kind of set the groundwork for that. So when I left uni, I worked in my dad's ad agency. And he took the approach of treating me as a graduate trainee. And he said, "You're going to work in every department of the ad agency." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I know how to design stationery. I know how to design business cards, letterheads, etc., because I worked in the studio. I know how to manage the production side of things because I was the one, and this is way back when you're running with films and discs to production houses and all the rest of that. I know how to get from one end of town very quickly because I worked as his driver at one stage and needed to get him to the next meeting. So all of that was good training for being able to keep your eye on a number of things at the same time. Not multitasking. Multitasking is counterproductive. But being able to say on Tuesdays we work on finances. On Monday we're going through the stats on social media to see what happened in the last 7 days. On Wednesday, we're doing this. In the afternoon, we're coaching on Thursdays and Tuesdays, etc. You've got to find yourself in all of that because there's no one to do it for you, and if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. So it's a transition. Another thing that helped was being a mom, having to do school run and taking kids to afternoon activities, learning how to almost literally be in multiple places at the same time. That was good training. So I'll do my meal planning on a Sunday so that I'm only spending 30 minutes on meal prep and getting into dinner as opposed to waking up and going, okay, what are we going to eat and spend a whole 2 hours trying to figure out what to sort out. So that sort of ability to juggle many balls has really paid off. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock when I first started doing it, but you get into a rhythm. And I think that's the key. And one of the things I discuss with business owners is what's the rhythm of your business? What are you working on? Is there a sort of cycle that you've built into your day where you know that I don't do meetings in the morning, or I save meetings for the afternoon, or I want to do deep work, or I do a bit of work after the kids have gone to bed simply because I want to be present with my children when I get home at the end of the day. So those are skills that I do lean on. And I think the shock is I'm over the shock now. I've got the rhythm. And yeah, we've got flow, which is great. Yeah. Good
Like,
question.
I like the analogy of all of that because it also leans into the dance aspect of you know, your how you began in your formidable years, because everything has to have a rhythm. Like you said, when it's time
Yes.
to do the books, you're not over there trying to open up your social media at the same time to look at the analytics and things of that nature. So everything has to have a rhythm and a flow and the way that it works. Now, so many people, and I'm supposing these are the people that you end up coaching, show up, with receipts from the burns unit, after having been burnt out because they're trying to do everything all at the same time. And you also did
Yes.
showcase your routine about being a mom and being able to juggle all of this, in between things that's
Yeah.
obviously happened, school, meal preps and things of
Yes.
that nature. What sort of role does creativity play in your coaching methodology? Because it does seem like there's a lot of you're drawing from all these places, but it also takes someone who's really, really good at making sense of what needs to happen at that particular time in order for them to put out a result. Like, anyone can have coffee, sugar, water, milk, but not a lot of people can make a barista coffee. And I think what you're presenting to us here is a nice, freshly brewed cup of coffee.
I like that. I like that. Um, Creativity plays a huge role. And I think my background in psychology really put me in a position where I'm able to read the room, even virtually. So a lot of my coaching takes place virtually. Um, I listen to your tone of voice and compare it to previous. And I can tell somebody's feeling a little down, somebody's feeling a little very excited, or somebody is feeling X, and be able to pick up on that. And I think it's the creativity allows me to be relevant. I was working with one client, we had a coaching plan laid out, and we're going through the motions. Um, and then just one session, I got onto the call, and 2 minutes in, I can tell something's changed. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go through the normal, through the coaching plan. I'm going to step out and be more, if I can use the word nurturing, as opposed to more detached, because sometimes in coaching you do have to be detached and let the person speak. Um, And we unpacked a number of issues that my client was facing at work that were actually taking a toll, not just on her personally, but were now impinging on the coaching, on even her relationship with her family. She was overwhelmed. And we said, okay, we need to pause and let's deal with the source of overwhelm. And we went through her daily routine and we mapped out all sorts of things, which wasn't part of the original coaching plan, but emerged as an issue that needed to be dealt with. And afterwards, she sent me a message. And she's like, you know what? I was actually dreading the coaching session because I thought, oh, we're going to be talking more about the plan and what I'm supposed to be doing, and not necessarily what I need to be doing. And I'm like, look, and I explained to her, I listen to what you're saying, I listen to what you're not saying, I listen to your tone of voice. I can see as we're on that call, as you said earlier, there's that two-way window, as it were, where I can see that you're not quite yourself, and it would have been uncoach-like for me to simply bulldoze and carry on without stopping to say, what's up? Something else seems to be the issue. Something else seems to be getting you down. How do we navigate that? And we made the whole coaching session about that. And you've got to be creative. You've got to be able to read the room. You've got to be able to switch and say, okay, plan A, as I said, is not going to work. Let's go with plan B, or let's go with plan F. One of the sayings I like is the goal mustn't change, but your journey to that goal has got to be something you're flexible about. Build flexibility into your goal getting. But the goal must remain almost written in stone. And you've just got to find, and I'm just thinking back to my master's story. There was the goal is to get a master's degree. But I hopped and had to change course, had to change direction, had to press pause when it became crazy expensive to try and get it done. But the goal never changed. And I think a lot of people find themselves in situations where the goal comes under pressure or they're challenged. And because they can't see a way around that challenge, they tend to back away from the goal. And it becomes a habit. It becomes a learned response where you when things get tough, you withdraw. And it's to say, how do we build resilience and drive towards that goal? The goal mustn't change. Take a pause, grieve, recharge, go on holiday, retail therapy, whatever it is. Do that, and then come back and say, how else can I tackle this goal? What are my other options? What haven't I tried in terms of this goal in order to get there? Or is there someone who's achieved a goal like this, who I can lean on, learn from, and develop another plan X? So it's that flexibility, the resilience, the creativity. I guess my creativity comes through as being flexible, being resilient, being able to come up with a plan B. So creativity is absolutely critical for the work I do.
Absolutely. And if somebody is obviously watching this and is, drawn into your expertise and your approach, obviously, like you said, is nurturing and things of that nature, how can they begin their journey to maybe get started to work with you?
Drop me a line. I'm on LinkedIn as Nyasha Chidavaenzi-Choga. Let's have a discussion. You can also reach me on the coaching platform I use. I'm sure you can share the link at some point. And let's do a call. Let's do a discovery call, because there are a number of things we've got to look at. What's the issue? Sometimes the issue is hidden behind a series of issues, and we've got to get to the bottom of that. Do we have the kind of chemistry that allows us to connect, and for me to be your coach? If there's no rapport, if you aren't feeling my vibe, it's very unlikely that we'll work productively as coaching clients. So that discovery call, others like to call it a chemistry call. Am I the right person to coach you through this particular situation? So whether it's positive or negative, as I said earlier, you've got the promotion, you've got the job you wanted, you feel you're in a little over your head, and you need somebody to teach you new swimming strokes or whatever. Or you've gone through a crisis and you're not quite clear on how to navigate out of that situation. Drop me a line. We'll have a chat. Come to my DM on LinkedIn, Nyasha Chidavaenzi-Choga, and we can have a chat and see how we can help each other. Open to working virtually. I actually almost do very little in-person coaching. Let's harness technology around us and get you to where you need to be and get you to the place where you become who you need to be.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below.
Fantastic.
So that people can actually get started on their journey. Now, Nyasha, when we started, you introduced us to the 15-year-old that got injured and the career ended on that part. And you also introduced us to the older Nyasha who had to grieve and go shopping in South Africa because they had been made redundant. And that was yet another part of your life that you had to, really, really focus and look within as who you're becoming and things of that nature. Now, if the Nyasha that was in between those two girls came to you for coaching, and knowing what you know now about life and everything else that comes along with it, what are maybe one or two things that you would tell her? Because she's just ended her career and she thinks, oh my God, my life has just ended, and doesn't know what's going to come to her. But also that is going to be met with yet another, sort of hard stop along the way. But just in the middle there, what would you coach that girl to know at least?
The one phrase I wouldn't say to her is there's plenty of fish in the sea. That doesn't mean anything. I would tell that 15-year-old to grieve the loss of her dancing career. I don't think nobody told me to grieve. I don't know that I did appropriately in terms of going through the 5 stages of grief and really making sure that I've come to a place of peace with that change. I think it's something that I sort of stumbled on. So it would be to be very intentional about the next steps. I think that's the biggest lesson I would learn. Grieve and be intentional about what you want to do next. It's easy to bumble through life from one thing to the next. And while we can't plan everything down to the last dot on the I, intentionality is critical. To realize that you are on a journey, and the intention is to get to the destination. The intention is to enjoy that journey and bring in things like flexibility and creativity and innovation, and being relevant to the time that you're in. I wish I'd had the internet back then, because I would have Googled, how do I get over this? But bumping forward to last year when I was made redundant, as I said, I went to the internet, ChatGPT. How do I tell my kids? How do I couch it in terms that allays my parents' concerns around what should happen next? It's to use the resources around you to feed that intention, to feed your process towards that goal. So yeah, I think I would tell that Nyasha, grieve the loss, and then be intentional about the next steps. Don't be in a hurry to recover or to look like you've recovered. But be intentional about the things that feed your soul, and get you to a place where you're able to plan out the next move um, without the baggage of the past. Yeah, I think that's what I tell them.
Absolutely, and great advice, because so many people just want to bulldoze through just so that they avoid having to feel those feelings in the very first place. And yeah, I can't thank you enough, Nyasha, for your time and especially the journey that you took. What I
Mm-hmm.
learned from all of this is, whatever you're going through or whatever is happening around you, just pay close attention, because one day you'd have a good story to tell on the online prosperity show.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited for what's about to come. But it would be remiss for me to not ask Nyasha, what's next? What do you envision in the future now that you're now on this road? You've brought us into your world. What should we be excited about? Cohesify and even the business club that you're starting. I
Yes,
saved that
yes.
for this moment right here.
So we talked about the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship and being the general dog's body as you're building your business. And the one thing that I'm wanting is community. To be in a community of like-minded people who are working on their businesses, um, and supporting each other, learning from each other, networking, and maybe even partnering. So the Cohesify Business Club is something that's been on my heart for a long time. And I've just not come across something that does that. There are a lot of WhatsApp groups that I'm in as an entrepreneur, but it's the conversation just flows. So the business club will offer a structured approach to building your business, where we look at a framework that I've worked on, and the goal is to say, look, how do we formalize, how do we professionalize what you're doing, so that you start to bring in technology to do things for you. You start to harness tools like email marketing. It's not a thing here. And to say how it's so easy to set up though, and to keep it going and to keep those conversations and connections going. It's a place where I would want entrepreneurs to come through and say, you know what, I've got a base from which I can bounce off ideas. I can hear what other people are doing. I can plan the next step. I can get help. And it's something I'm very excited about. We're launching. I'm going to tell you the launch date. You're the first person to hear it. We're launching on the 28th of April. I do have a wait list that's active, and it's growing, which is very exciting for me because that's the fuel I need. And I've finalized the logos. We've set up the Facebook groups that club members will be in. I've mapped out the calendar for the next 30 weeks, so that we can really dive in and it be more than a WhatsApp conversation. We're having in-depth discussions. I might even call you in as an expert on podcasting, to just tell us, how do you get started in that space? I think there are a lot of stories to be told in Zimbabwe that don't have a platform. And having a subject matter expert come in and say, this is how you set up your blog, this is how you set up your email marketing, this is how you set up a community. We'll start to hear more of those stories and hopefully inspire others to take that journey and say, you know what, I do have a skill, a service, that I can share with the world. And by being a member of this club, I have the tools to share that with the world. And that really that's what it's about. And I'm very, very excited. I'm really looking forward to the 28th. I'm not feeling the kind of fear I felt hitting send. This thing it's been burning in my heart for a long time, and I need it to see the light of day. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And I can't wait to obviously blow off the candles in year number 5, year number
Yes.
6 of this. Because you
Yes.
mentioned, not a lot of people go past year number 5. But I viscerally believe if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And I think this is exactly what you have
Absolutely.
created. And I can't thank you enough for the time that you've afforded us today. And I can't wait to see how this journey progresses for you. So, Nyasha, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love your energy. I love uh, the challenging questions that you were asking. And for me, I was like, oh, I've never been asked that before. It's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you. And I do hope this is the start of a good partnership going forward.
Fantastic. And for those that are watching right now, if Nyasha's journey resonated with you, consider exploring what Cohesify Advisory and also the upcoming business club can offer you. Because I want you to remember one thing: transformation begins with a single step, and it starts right now. And while you're at it, don't forget to share and subscribe for more insightful content, because in our next episode, we're going to be discussing ideas that can actually help you lead a happier existence. But one thing for sure, if you resonated with Nyasha's story and her journey, I encourage you to share this particular episode with somebody who could benefit from joining the business club. So if you know a friend of yours, a sister, a brother, a mother who's trying to set up their business or trying to get something going, please let them watch this video so they can also join the business club, and let's all continue to grow and prosper together. All right. I hope you stay inspired, and until next time, keep striving for prosperity in all areas of your life. Bye for now.